Hi everyone, Diane here. Welcome to my studio. Well, it's not my studio actually. It's an Airbnb in Canterbury, but I have finally, after being here 2 weeks, got around to recording something. A couple of days ago we went for a little walk along the seafront at a place called Hearty Ferry in Orr, which is up near Faversham in Kent. Those of you who know England well will know it. Very famous location. There used to be, this is a photo I took up there, just a quick snapshot, but it's got quite a lot of striking features about it, and I thought it might make a painting. This piece of road stretching out into the sea is where they used to launch the ferry from, which used to go from here over that water to that island, which is the Isle of Sheppey. And I used to work on the Isle of Sheppey, so this is a kind of bit of a trip down memory lane. And so I'm going to put this over to one side here, and I'm going to see what I can do to render that in watercolor. So I've got some small sheets of Baohong paper. This is stretched, so it's ready to work on. Baohong, £140 cold pressed watercolor paper. So this is a kind of painting that doesn't really need a great deal of sketching, but it probably needs a few bare bones popped in. So I'll just sit myself down. And the horizon line in the photo is halfway down the paper. So we'll do that. And then the island, and I'm going to increase the proportions of the island to make it a little bit higher than it appears to the lens of the camera, because although our cameras these days are absolutely incredible in what they do, they still tend to flatten the landscape. So that's the beauty of doing a painting. You can bring things back more into the proportions that you actually saw. Now, 1/3 of the way across the painting, roughly, is where the road or the jetty goes out into the water. And you can see this is all sand here, and so the tide was right out. So we had a good view of the curve of, I don't know if you'd call that a jetty, it really is a bit of a road. So anyway, that came round like that, and then a beautiful sweeping curve in the front here. This is a painting actually that would benefit from being done bigger. And I'm just going to adjust what I've done here. So I'm going to call this a sketch, preparatory sketch. And I might do this again. And there's lots of stones and all sorts of things here, but the main feature is that this is quite dark. And then we've got a few lines, a few tracks and things in the water, and more stones up here. So this is just a bit of fun, really. Just a bit of fun. So let me find a reasonably big brush for the sky. I'm going to use this, I think, as a number 11 round, a draw wheel brush. And let's just wet the sky with a little bit of water. I haven't made any big deal about that. And I'm going to then pop in some ultramarine. Let me show you the paints. This is ultramarine, and we'll just make a little puddle of that. And then it was a pretty grey sort of day, but I won't necessarily hammer on about that because everyone knows what grey days look like, and we don't really need them repeated in our paintings. Anyway, it was a day that was threatening to rain. And then in the distance we have the Isle of Sheppey, which is always a pretty grey place, but pop that in as a sort of greeny grey. And if that runs into the sky, so be it, but we'll try to keep it a little bit separate so it doesn't run in all the way along. Here, this end, there's a place called Laysdown, which is a seaside resort, and I used to go there when I was a child. I don't remember really, I was too young, but my parents used to go there. Used to talk about it quite often. Lansdowne. I think they had a fairground or something there. And then we have a line of water. And just pop that in and wet it. And then it's going to go, it goes quite grey, but I don't really want it too grey. I think I want it more of a lilac-y sort of colour, because grey can get really tedious. So we'll do the background for the sand in this sort of pink. I'll put that over there as well. And then the sandy bit at the top is kind of beige. Here, I'm going to come back with some, probably dry brush and some calligraphy. And then this is going to get grayer as it goes out. And then it was a really miserable day, actually. Then we want, I think I'll mix some sap green with the ultramarine to give me a green, a fairly strong green, and then I'm going to put some permanent rose in with that to give me a good grey. And I'm going to hope that this is going to work. I need some texture in the foreground. And here on this side here there is quite a lot of rocks. And I'm going to have to wait for that to dry before I can put in any details, which would be small stones and things like that. So I'll just let that dry. Now, this isn't actually dry yet, but I'm thinking that what I might like to do is I'm going to use my Staedtler Karat Aquarelle watercolor pencil, and I'm going to use that to define some of the important lines. This is a watercolor pencil which has a nice, strong ability to make darks. So that's often a good way of, need to get rid of that as a, I don't know what that was, it wasn't the pencil. This road, I think, needs, because it's got quite a sharp edge and it's quite an important feature. And I think the best way of doing it is going to be to come in with the pencil and draw in. And I'm going to make that line of C a little bit darker, I think. I'm not sure, we'll see how it goes. But I'm drawing in all the texture of the stones and things which are scattered around here, been revealed by the tide going out. And you can't see them actually in this painting, in this picture, but there used to be some very important and scenic stakes along there. I saw one out here which gave a wonderful sense of perspective, but they seem to have disappeared. And then back here, we've got lots of rocks. It's like a kind of tumbled, random. Keep it as random as you can. Think of it as a design, not a depiction of something specific. And there would be just a bit of shadow from these stakes because they're in the sand, not in the water. The water finishes here, but there are kind of lots of swoopy lines. And then I might go to a slightly smaller brush. Oh, here's one. I'm going to put in some colour there, and I said I'd put a little bit more blue in the water. And then in this picture, out here, about here, is a small boat, which I'm going to, it didn't have its mast up, but I'm going to give it a mast. So I'm just going to cover up the painting, and I'm going to put a bit of spatter in here on this foreground, and in kind of blue and brown and grey. I'll just do that to give it a bit of texture. That's my favourite word, isn't it? Texture. I'm going to darken down some of these bits and pieces over here. And so there we are. I would call that a sketch, and with possibilities, perhaps. So this is a video for the members, so it's not particularly, what's the word, polished, but it's an example of work in progress. So I'll let you go, and thank you for being here. Bye, everyone.